here's some news for you, Luke. John Boyega discusses making peace with his Star Wars experience. I just find that funny because does anyone remember? Like, I just think every now and then it's always worth remembering that the Star Wars sequels happened. Do you remember the Star Wars sequels, Luke? Yeah, and how like they were really bad, even though like it's a franchise that everyone likes. And how like John Boyega by the end of it like very obviously hated it. I think I live for that. I live for actors very obviously hating the movies they're starring in, and I don't think we get enough of it. So I couldn't be bothered to read anything from the from the actual article because I didn't think it was it's probably not that interesting. But I just thought isn't it funny that that he starred in this film, and then the film was really bad, and now he hates it. Yeah. Why do you think it is that all the people from the prequels really liked the prequels? Do you think it's because George Lucas isn't a psychopath while everyone at Disney is?
Maybe.
So I guess the message is if you want actors to be enthusiastic about your franchise, make it be kind of, I guess, comedically bad. Hello and welcome to Select and Reflect, the movie review podcast where we look at films that have come out in the near and distant past. We give them a couple of watches and evaluate them beyond first impressions. I'm your host Michael, and I'm joined as always by my co-host Luke, and this week we are celebrating the 25-year anniversary of the release of the film The Big Lebowski. So Luke, why don't you tell us a thing or two about The Big Lebowski?
Sure thing, Michael. So The Big Lebowski is a 1998 crime comedy film written, produced, and directed by Joel and Ethan Coen. Joel and Ethan Coen. These guys are pretty good at writing and directing these movies, right, aren't they?
Yeah, they're quite famous. I think I might have heard of them making a movie once.
Yeah, apparently it says it was only directed by Joel Coen.
Oh, really? I know, like, sometimes they like to hate each other, but
yeah.
I thought that was only for their really obscure ones, actually.
But interestingly, it was only produced by Ethan Coen.
So one produced and one directed?
Indeed, and they both wrote it. Movie
good
stars,
designation of responsibilities.
I know. Jeff Bridges, John Goodman, Julianne Moore, Steve Buscemi, David Huddleston, John Turturro, and Philip Seymour Hoffman, who really is, when you talk about this movie, Philip Seymour Hoffman is underrated. I feel like nobody talks about him that much. Yeah.
Like, I mean, he's one of those guys you just love to see him just show up in the movies like he does. Like, just like, oh, it's him. He's really not got a big ego, which you got to respect about him too.
Yeah,
like he accepts some pretty kind of insignificant roles, and he's that MVP player in the background,
Yes, the release date was March the 6th, 1998, so yeah, the 25-year anniversary. We're a bit over that, of course. We had to fit in our Oscar movies, and Michael, can you guess the budget?
No, so I'm going to guess maybe it was like, the budget was 12 million.
That's a good guess, because it was 15, so you're quite close. What about the box office? Because this is a cult classic. That doesn't always mean it got a lot of money in the box office, does it?
Yeah, but I kind of feel like, I don't know, I feel like this film was a big deal when it came out. I could be completely barking up the wrong tree. I know, like, usually when you give me hints, the hints actually are, like, intended to reflect an actual reality of the film. So I'm going to assume that it didn't do that well. Say it maybe made, like, I don't know, like, 60 million.
Okay, not that much, but a decent guess. So the total was 46.7.
Okay.
So yeah, and again, look, when this movie was released, The Big Lebowski, of course, it received mixed reviews at the time, but however, over time, reviews have become largely positive, and the film has become a cult favourite, noted for its eccentric characters, comedic dream sequences, idiosyncratic dialogue, and eclectic soundtrack. Wow.
That's a lot of words right there.
I know.
Can't argue that.
I know. In 2014, the film was selected for preservation in the US National Film Registry by the Library of Congress. And of course, their movie before this, Fargo, was also selected for that back in 2006 in its first year.
Maybe they can make a movie or two, eh?
Yeah, in its first year of eligibility. This took a bit longer. This didn't take 10 years. This took, what is it? I'm doing the math, 16 years. So, yeah, but anyway, The Big Lebowski, Michael. Did you like this movie?
Yeah, I did. I think this movie, it's very fun. It's very carefree. I think there is always that question one could ask of, like, I mean, there is obviously a certain talent to having a kind of coherent plot that, like, has a consistent theme and, like, builds up to something. And obviously this film doesn't really have that, but it does have a load of kind of fun, and also, when you're watching this film, you're like, yeah, this is a film that definitely utilizes the kind of the medium of filmmaking in all sorts of creative ways, which of course you don't get from your kind of just conventional plot films a lot of the time. definitely liked it. Definitely a fun time. I probably
Okay.
wouldn't say it's a masterpiece.
Okay, why wouldn't you say it's a masterpiece then?
Probably just because like I think it doesn't necessarily deal with anything kind of deep. Like I don't think there's like anything about it where I'm like, oh, that was really kind of insanely clever. I guess like that's what's kind of missing for me, like a real kind of conspicuous cleverness.
And the difference to say Fargo, you've seen a crime movie and like, oh, this isn't like L.A. or New York. This is like Minnesota.
Yeah,
And
Minnesota.
yeah, and so this isn't. This is just like kind of a lot of random shit that's funny. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Like this feels like it's very kind of I was gonna say almost like 22 short films about Springfield. I don't know if that's a great analogy, but it's just what I thought of.
Mm-hmm.
I did have actually another comment about this, which is that I was thinking. I don't know if this is a great intro, but yeah, why not? I said this film was a bit like Manchester by the Sea, but instead of being about depression, it's about being chill. Because I was kind of thinking to myself like, you know, one might say that it's a bit it's a bit arbitrary because I feel like if a film's like about kind of like depression or anxiety or like a kind of negative edgy emotion, a lot of people will be like, oh, that's like a really deep film. But it's like, well, being chill is an emotion. Being like a cool laid back dude is like an emotion. So why can't you have a film like that? And why is it inherently illegitimate to have a film about that? So in that sense, that's obviously me kind of defending the film.
So in the Coen Brothers movies rankings, I assume you put this behind No Country for Old Men,
Yeah.
and would
Ooh.
you also put it behind Fargo?
I would put it behind Fargo. It's definitely up there though. It's just
What
it is fun.
what about Burn After Reading?
Ooh, I think this film's kind of similar to Burn After Reading, in terms of like obviously being about like kind of goofiness. Like Burn After Reading also has that goofiness.
Yeah,
Um,
the
so yeah,
point
I haven't
is
seen Burn After Reading in a while.
maybe there is no point. Is that a similar kind of end point
Yeah,
with both?
literally like I when I finished the movie and I was talking to somebody about the fact I watched the movie and I was like it basically said it's like the Simpsons episode. There we go, another where they say maybe there is no moral. It's just a bunch of random stuff that happened.
Well, what is interesting is you say it's about 22, or it's like 22 short stories about Springfield. So the film is loosely inspired by the work of Raymond Chandler, interestingly. And Joel Cohen has stated, by the way, he was a novelist, Raymond Chandler. Joel
Ah,
Cohen has stated, we wanted to do a Chandler kind of story, how it moves episodically
yeah.
and deals with the characters trying to unravel a mystery, as well as having a hopelessly complex plot that's ultimately unimportant.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, the plot isn't super unimportant, but yeah, it is quite funny. Like, the plot's very
Well,
much
yeah,
like
it
a.
drives everything, but the
Yeah,
point is the resolution is just
yeah,
like
nothing to do with it.
if you're looking for a satisfying resolution, you will be disappointed.
Yeah,
Yes, and of course, I wouldn't say it's hopelessly complex, but it is very complex. But the point is, you're not really meant to think about it too much. What
yeah,
you're just meant to go along with what the dude says. There's lots of ins and outs, and it's the thing is when you watch the movie for the first time, this is perhaps why it got reviewed poorly because
yeah,
people were unsatisfied with the ending. But like myself, of course, I know about this movie. People who know
yeah.
about this movie know what they're going into when watching it, and you can just appreciate it for what it is and not worry about the mystery.
Yeah, that's a
Uh,
really good point, actually, and I definitely agree with that. Like, I
yes.
think I liked this film. I think I've seen this film more than twice, but definitely, obviously, having seen the film before, I was like, yeah, I really am very much enjoying it
hmm
more, like knowing what I'm getting into.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's not a movie. Oh, it's a movie to watch perhaps when you're high. Maybe.
Yes.
Yeah. It's a movie to watch where where you just want to relax and watch something like funny, and there's a lot of weird shit going on. Yeah, and yes, it isn't high art, but it's still a really good movie, I guess. But anyway, Michael, let's get into nitpicks or litpicks. How many did you have?
I didn't have any. Did you?
I had one litpick, which
Hmm.
is I like it when the actor has the same name as the main character.
Oh yeah, Jeff Bridges, Jeff Lebowski.
Yeah, but of course you don't really think about that because he's known
He's
as
the dude. Yeah.
he's the dude, and Lebowski is said far more than Jeff. So yeah, I just thought that was neat. I
Yeah. So
like it
not
when
only did they have that thing in there, but they weren't all up in your face about it, which
yeah.
is kind of like even better because it's like they weren't playing like hard to get or whatever.
Yeah, no, it's nice. So let's get into the plot of this movie. So Jeffrey the Dude Lebowski is a LA slacker who only wants to bowl and drink White Russians. Ah, wow, what a life, eh?
Yeah.
Uh, and he is mistaken for another Jeffrey Lebowski, a wheelchair-bound millionaire and finds himself dragged into a strange series of events involving nihilists, adult film producers, ferrets, errant toes, and large sums of money. The rich Lebowski's trophy wife is kidnapped, and he commissions the dude to deliver the ransom to secure her release. The plan goes awry when the dude's friend, Walter Sobchak, schemes to keep the ransom money for himself. Yes, and look, yeah, a lot of scheming, a lot of crazy shit going on, a lot of ins and outs, as he says. Yeah, it's just a wild ride, with the ending being ultimately unimportant, as Joel Cohen said.
Yes, it kind of feels like, I mean, the ending sort of reminds you of the whole Ant-Man, what the hell was that? Anchorman, that really escalated quickly.
Yes.
Like, oh boy, that really got out of hand.
Yes,
it jumped up a notch.
I feel like it's a parody, perhaps, of... there's a parody of maybe a couple of things, but also, like, mainly of LA, like, detective stories, with all the shit going on, because it's set in LA, of course, noir detective stories, which... Yeah, this guy is kind of replicating, just doing it, like, very badly.
Yes.
Let's talk about the dude, Michael.
His dudeness.
Yes, he's inspired mostly by Jeff Dowd, an American film producer and political activist the Coen brothers met while they were trying to find distribution for their first feature, which was, Michael, of course.
Was it Miller's Crossing? Or am I like... Oh, wait, was it Raising Arizona? Maybe I'm off. I feel like it's one of those... Oh, wait, actually, I feel like I do know what it is. It's something about, like... I feel like the plot's like a woman's, like, being chased by a murderer.
It's Blood Simple.
Yeah, Blood Simple, that is, yeah. So, like, I kind of was like, oh, yeah, it is. I mean, ironically, it's kind of like a noir film, I think.
Yeah, well, they're clearly interested in that, so it would make sense to flip that on its head to some degree. Dowd has been a member of the Seattle 7, liked to drink White Russians, and was known as the Dude. So, again, pretty heavily based off Jeff Dowd, this character. But the Dude was also partly based off a friend of the Coen brothers, Peter Exline, who is now a faculty member at the USC School of Cinematic Arts. He was a Vietnam War veteran who reportedly lived in a dump of an apartment and was proud of a little rug that tied the room together. Yeah, it's just like a silly little thing, which is inherently funny to say.
Yeah, it really tied the room together.
Yeah, like a rug in front of a bunch of shit. Yeah, some people have said, like, maybe the dude is the rug, like it's a metaphor, and he ties the movie together,
Oh, yeah. I can see that. That makes sense.
Yeah, because the whole movie's a bit of a mess, and he ties it together. I'm not sure, maybe that's the case. But yeah, the Coens love these stories, don't they? They love these weird people,
Yeah.
They love that shit, don't they?
No, yeah, exactly. Like, and like the kind of eccentric characters, and obviously, yeah, you get like John Turturro just showing up as this completely random character who's just like.
We're gonna get to him.
Yeah. So yeah,
to be honest, the star of this movie is maybe John Goodman's character, Walter, who's just got a very weird backstory as well with his wife.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and again, it's just like there's no need for it to be weird, but it is, and he plays his character so well, John Goodman, which we'll get into. But the movie starts off with Sam Elliott in his cowboy voice, narrating it, and it is kind of a satire on how someone would talk about like a dangerous cowboy movie in the Old West, and maybe the Coens are saying, this is the New West in the 90s, so there's no more Clint Eastwoods. Now you get the dude, like he's the Lone Ranger in the West in the 90s. That's him. I don't know. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I like that. So it's kind of, I mean, in a way, it's almost like a very kind of farcical version of No Country for Old Men in that sense, because obviously No Country for Old Men's about how like the old days of the West have like gone away and everyone's evil now, and I guess this is more like the old days of the West have kind of been replaced with. I mean, actually, I suppose it is, because when you think about it, what do people say about the kind of cowboys in the West? They're like outlaws, and in a way, nowadays, if you're an outlaw, you don't go and rustle cattle. You just kind of be a neat. And just bum around or be a slacker, as it's put in, So I guess in that sense, he is being an outlaw from kind of what society expects.
Yes. So many critics and audiences have likened the film to a modern western, while others dispute this or liking it to a crime novel that revolves around mistaken identity plot devices. Yeah, I mean, it could be a modern western. Again, it could be a parody of a western set in modern times. But yeah, and it does revolve around mistaken identity plot devices as well. But yeah, those. The mistaken identity, all that stuff doesn't matter. So let's get into the movie, Michael. In the early 1990s in LA, slacker and avid bowler Jeffrey the Dude Lebowski is attacked in his home by two enforcers for pawn kingpin Jackie Treehorn. To whom, what a great name by the way, Treehorn for a porn kingpin. To whom a different Jeffrey Lebowski's wife owes money. One of the thugs urinates on the dude's rug before the two realize that they have the wrong man and leave. It's such an interesting start to the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like it is an iconic start with like "Show me the money, Lebowski." That's obviously a very famous line, isn't it? And
Yeah. Where's the money? It's literally what I said as soon as we opened up the podcast with, or as soon as I called you, like, where the podcast?
So yeah, I love how the dude reacts to everything as well. Just it sets up the character so well. And yeah, like he's sitting on the toilet at the end, like it's a throne. Isn't that right?
Yeah, because he's a king. He's a king
king
of his castle.
He is, yes, and this is his castle. Yeah, does not care that it's his chitty apartment. It's his. So, consulting his bowling partners, Vietnam vet Walter Sobchak and Fall Guy Donnie Karabatsos. I should have told you what his surname or asked you what his surname was.
Would have been fun.
Yes. The dude decides to visit wealthy philanthropist Jeff Lebowski, who's the Big Lebowski, requesting compensation for the rug. So this scene with Walter and Donnie is just so good. The dialogue and the back and forth, Walter saying, Chinaman isn't the correct nomenclature.
Yes.
And like the dude saying like, well, he didn't build the railroads, he pissed on my rug. And it's just it's talking about the most inane shit and the belittling of Donnie by Walter. It's so good. It's incredible dialogue, and it's amazing to read the reviews at the time, and people thought the dialogue in this movie was bad. Yeah, go on.
I mean, I was just gonna say, it's obviously ridiculous because like the dialogue's very natural, which is kind of like it's like how actual people would talk to each other.
Yeah,
obviously it's kind of a ridiculous situation, but it's kind of like the back and forth that you would expect from actual people.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, did you enjoy these scenes a lot?
Yeah, like that's it. Yeah, I really did. Like, they were very easy to watch. I think I've already said, but it's kind of like, yeah, like every single kind of scene of just the people kind of sitting around talking. You're just like, yeah, this is fun. It's very kind of good energy and all of that, which I think is helped by the fact the dialogue is quite natural, because a lot of the time natural dialogue is quite kind of snappy and back and forth.
Yeah, that is the case if you write it correctly. Of course,
Yes.
Tarantino's dialogue is a bit more out there. It's a bit more unusual than this. This feels, again, more realistic. This feels maybe a bit stupider than normal dialogue. Tarantino's feels a bit more like cinematic, like dramatic, I guess, than normal. But they're both engaging for different reasons. So the bowling now, Michael. We have to talk about why. Why is there, why bowling? Well, Peter Exline, one of the guys the dude was based off, also belongs to an amateur softball league. But the Coens changed it to bowling in the film because, according to one of them, it's a very social sport where you can sit around and drink and smoke while engaging in inane conversation.
That's a good point. You can't really do that with softball. You gotta
Yeah, you can't do that. But that's the thing. They can just engage in inane conversation, and that is, of course, one of the highlights of this movie. And again, that's perfect. It really is. The shot of the bowling, with the shots of people bowling with the soundtrack. Like, there's a beauty in that as well, which is so stupid because it's just fucking bowling.
Yeah, definitely. I think you get like a lot of kind of visually interesting scenes with the way the bowling is handled. And that is like really
it's
easy.
Beautiful.
Yeah, it's very aesthetic. Kind of like the way like the big balls run along, like, and also I don't know, like people are striking poses.
Yeah,
it's kind of cool.
Yeah, no, it is very cool. It's very nice to see. Yeah, it's just really cinematic, and again, you're doing that for fucking bowling. It's one of the fun aspects of this movie, I guess. So, Lebowski basically refuses to give the dude his rug back or pay for his rug or whatever. But the dude tricks his assistant, Philip Seymour Hoffman, again, who's great in this movie, he's called Brandt, into letting him take a similar rug from the mansion. So this guy, Jeff Lebowski, the rich guy, he is clearly this right-wing Republican who, despises the dude and what he stands for.
He looks like Rush Limbaugh, which is that like, I mean, I kind of would struggle to believe that's a, what's the word I'm looking for? That's a mistake.
Unintentional. Yeah. Well, that much is clear. He hates the dude, and the dude, he does feel like a pushback to his kind of politics. And this was a article called "In That Rug Really Tied the Room Together," which was published in 2001. Joseph Natoli argues that the dude represents a counter-narrative to the post-Reaganomic entrepreneurial rush for return on investment on display in such films as Jerry Maguire and Forrest Gump. So this is a pushback to all of those kind of movies. It's a pushback to Reaganomic entrepreneurial rush for return on investment. What do you think, Michael? Do you think that's correct? Does the dude represent that? Because look, the Rich Lebowski, he's saying he's won, and like the anti-Reagan people, have lost, and there's the anger that people like the dude like still exist and still try to like act like how they do in society.
Yeah, definitely. Also, I feel like there's kind of the fact of like I mean, obviously there's a thing in a lot of Coen Brothers films where like, and you see it in Fargo, where like the people kind of trying to advance their own station, end up kind of screwing themselves over. And like there's more an attitude of kind of if you're more chill and you don't actually kind of try to, I guess, succeed in the world, then actually, you're actually going to have kind of a happier life, which definitely seems to be true with the dude. Like he's way more kind of having a higher quality of life in a way, because of the fact that he's not like stressed out. So I feel like, yeah, that would kind of relate to the whole kind of grind mindset of entrepreneurialism and all that. And I mean, he doesn't get any money out of it in the end, does he? For some reason, I don't know why I was thinking he got money out of it, but he doesn't. Never mind. But whatever.
Well, life rolls on. He's just happy living his life.
Yeah.
So the dude and Walter argue over pacifism after Walter pulls a gun on one of their opponents at the ball. Yeah, I don't know. Look, John Goodman should have been nominated for Best Supporting Actor for this performance. I mean, he's so entertaining. Like every line he just nails. Like this is one of the best performances for a supporting actor I can remember seeing.
Yeah.
Like genuinely, it's so fucking good, and I feel like people do appreciate that, or maybe they don't appreciate that. Maybe there is people just appreciate the movie more. But yeah, I mean, talk to me, Michael, about how good John Goodman is in this movie as Walter.
Yeah, he is. He's really good. In terms of like, it's also, I don't know why, for some reason when I was watching I was like, hey, he was like Fred Flintstone not that long before this. I don't really know when the Flintstone movie came out, but that's kind of what I think of him of. But he's like, the aggression is kind of very different. And I think like, yeah, he does, he has a kind of like crazy energy, which is very entertaining. And also like, I feel like kind of the way the character's written is kind of like, it almost seems like he's crazy, but he's kind of consistent. Like there feels like there's kind of this consistency to him where it kind of feels like once you got to know him, like you could imagine how he would act in other situations in life. Like he's not just kind of like randomly doing stuff. You can tell there's kind of like a motivation behind the character.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, it's he's a very specific character, but I get like this Vietnam vet who like wants to engage in every situation, like by fighting, he's over aggressive, etc. But anyway, that's interesting because like the character's great on its own, and he's just such a fun character, such a funny character. But the film has also been used as a tool for analysis on a number of issues relating to politics. In September 2008, Slate published an article that interpreted The Big Lebowski as a political critique. The centerpiece of this viewpoint was that the Walter character, Walter Sobchak, is a neocon. So it cites the film's references to then President George H.W. Bush and the First Gulf War. So essentially, maybe the Coens are saying that this guy is like represents, I guess, the neocons in the Gulf War, like how he goes on about the rules and maybe overreacts.
Yeah,
pulls guns out on people, and he still has that Vietnam mentality. Of course, that's very clear.
Yes.
So yeah, what do you think that reading again we talked about before? About how the Big Lebowski character is like a Reagan guy, and the dude's like a pushback to this entrepreneurial political philosophy that was going on in the 90s. Maybe that isn't there. Maybe this isn't there. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they do have that line kind of early on when they say like, oh, this was just after the Iraq War, and like this dude was a dude of his time. So it kind of introduces that idea that this might be kind of a commentary on a lot of the attitudes of the 90s. Yes. I mean, I think it makes sense because, obviously, this was post-Cold War, and yet you have this guy who's constantly obsessed with Vietnam. That would kind of make sense as like a kind of commentary on the fact that this is the 90s, everyone's chill now, you don't need to be an uptight kind of guy as if the Soviets are still just round the corner. So it would make sense as kind of reading.
And he feels out of place, therefore. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you think that was intentional by the Coen brothers? There is a political angle to this then.
Yeah. I would say
Yeah.
so. I would say like it's kind of they're probably commenting on like the feeling of the time, which necessarily has a political aspect to it. So like
Okay.
they're kind of I think like the film's supposed to be about like kind of socio-political attitude of the 90s.
Okay.
So yeah, that's how I
Yeah.
kind of imagine it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it is commenting on that, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
So another bowling opponent now. So the character of Jesus Quintana, an opponent of the dude's bowling team. Just a character who's in the movie for like 5 minutes in total. But he has of course, a big impact.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, what a great shot when he hits a strike and then dances, and then the camera pans over to the dude's bowling team, who are just looking. It's just, it's just so fucking good. It's just so great, man. Like the shots are amazing, and again, there's no point to it really. And the movie could have existed without this, but it's so good to have that in. And he was inspired in part by a performance at the Coens. This is the character. He was inspired by a performance the Coens had seen John Turturro give in 1988 at the Public Theatre in a play called Mi Puta Vida, in which he plays a pederast type character.
Oh wow.
So this is one of them again, one of the Coens. So we thought, let's make Turturro a pederast. It'll be something he can really run with.
Wow.
So there you go. Like, let's just make him a pederast. And of course, this character actually sets up the iconic line, which is probably the most memorable line from the movie.
Yes.
Where, Jesus Quintana says, I'll fuck you. Hey, we're gonna fuck you. And the dude says, do you want to say the line, Michael?
I'm probably not going to get it perfectly, but something like, oh, yeah, well, that's just like, your opinion, man.
Does he say in there?
I wasn't sure. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like he must say. Yeah, I'm not sure.
I don't think he does. I think he
so maybe
says,
just drop the and it was correct.
Well, that's just like your opinion, man. Like it's just such a lazy response, but it's such a great response at the same time.
I feel like
fucking good.
Yeah, it kind of shows like his whole attitude towards kind of everything. That it's like, because it's there's obviously this kind of conflict going on around him with like the money and stuff, and then you kind of see this like conflict here, and he's just like this idea that like things could go wrong for him. He's just like, oh yeah, well that's just like your opinion, man.
Yeah, I literally wrote down, it's such a great line because it sums up the character so well. I mean, that's the thing, sometimes you get these lines, these iconic lines in movies which just sum up characters, and you can have a great character, but to have a line which just sums them up, that's hard to do. But yeah, the Coens managed to pull it off with that line. Great line, great delivery again from Jeff Bridges, who I haven't really talked about. I've praised, of course, John Goodman, but Jeff Bridges does a great job here as well. He should have been nominated for Best Actor as well. This movie, I don't think it got any award nominations, of course. It became very popular after its release. Quite a bit after. And obviously, Jesse Quintana, he then threatens Walter and, says, I'll shove the gun up your ass. Just the line from Walter is just so good. Where he turns to the dude. Oh, it doesn't even turn. He just says, like, 8-year-olds, dude. Like,
yeah. It's like, it's just like such a kind of just great. It's almost like basically a kind of non sequitur where it's just got nothing to do with it in a way.
Yeah, but obviously it's like why that's not the time to bring it up, but at the same time it's like fuck you.
Yeah, like it's kind of the perfect time to bring it up.
Yeah, he raped 8-year-olds. It's just such a fucking great line delivery, great thing to say, and yeah, it's I love it. The comedy in this movie is it's really funny.
On point.
It is on point. It's a really funny movie. So.
Yeah. Although it's kind of actually, you say that, like for me, this movie, it's one of those movies where it's kind of like, it's a weird situation because it's not really any kind of like jokes. Like if you were to like explain to somebody like oh tell me a joke in the Big Lebowski, it's kind of you can't really say that because so I guess it's probably they call it like a character kind of comedy.
Yeah.
Where it's like
exactly
it only works in that you have like you see these characters and just like watching the characters behave how they do is what's funny.
The vibe is funny, I guess. Well, these characters are ridiculous. And therefore, they're saying and doing ridiculous things, and there's ridiculous situations, and that's what's funny about it, like the absurdity of it. And again, that situation is just absurd. Like this pederast, he's just like bragging to them, and it's just like he's 8 years old dude. Yeah, just I got a wonderful delivery again from John Goodman. So soon afterwards, Bunny, of course, the wife of Lebowski, is apparently kidnapped, and Lebowski hires the dude to deliver the requested ransom money, $1 million. The kidnappers arrange to collect the ransom and convince the kidnap was a ruse by Bunny. Walter schemes to keep the money for himself, substituting it with a bag of his dirty laundry. And the plan fails, and the kidnappers leave with Walter's bag, and he and the dude return to the bowling alley, leaving the briefcase in the car trunk. And, well, the car is stolen. Again, so this is a typical thing, all that shit that went down. You know, the Coen brothers, love to put these things in their movies where there's some crazy situation happening with money and also a kidnapping. We saw that with Fargo.
Yeah.
With people who don't know what they're doing, basically putting morons in situations where, normally in action movies or westerns, the protagonists are kind of smart and at least proactive. It feels like stuff just happens to the dude. Like the dude just goes from one situation to the other without much like agency, like quite a lot of the time. And yeah, like again, he's just but that is of course a staple of the Coen Brothers movies, right, Michael?
Yeah, definitely. I feel like a lot of I was thinking like what the Coen brothers often deal with is inscrutability. Because obviously, like, if you look at like Burn After Reading, the whole thing is like they can't work out what's going on. Or in A Serious Man, it's like I should know his name, Larry Gopnik, can't work out why his life is falling apart, and it's kind of like this idea of like people trying to work out what's going on. And I feel like it's almost like in this film, there's that aspect of you have that same complexity. Like, it's kind of an interesting twist in it, because you have that same complexity, and yet the main character has absolutely no interest at all in working out what's going on, really. He's kind of just like, what was he, he said that, like, so was it the whole, like, oh, there's lots of ins and outs and all that kind of stuff. So, like, I think that kind of not only is the kind of insanity of what's going on kind of entertaining, but also kind of, I guess, thematically, they're kind of doing something different with it in this film as well. Where it's like, well, let's see how a character who's just like completely chill and zen interacts with this world, and that's kind of like an interesting dimension to it.
Yeah, no, that is interesting. Yeah. So Maud Lebowski, now get onto her, played by Julianne Moore, asks the dude to help recover the money after she takes her rug back.
Yeah. Does the word vagina make you uncomfortable?
Well, we'll get onto that. So her father illegally withdrew from the family's foundation, so that's interesting. So the father isn't actually that rich. Well, I mean, I say it's interesting, an interesting detail, of course.
Yes,
I guess it
creates
does
some intrigue.
Yeah, it creates intrigue, but yeah, it's I guess the ending not being satisfying, that's part of it. But yeah, so she asks Michael, of course, does the word vagina make you feel uncomfortable? And the dude just is like, he doesn't really answer. He's just like, it just doesn't say anything. He's just being talked to, which happens quite a lot. But yeah, a journal article by Brian Wall, published in the feminist journal Camera Obscura, uses the film to explain Karl Marx's commodity fetishism and the feminist consequences of sexual fetishism. So, that's funny. I thought that's a good thing to bring up. Do you think the Coen brothers were going for that?
Yeah, I don't really know about that. I mean, it seems kind of like a very separate thing. I will say that, like, it's definitely, everybody knows that there aren't really like any good words for vagina, because you got like, I feel like it's almost like every single word is either kind of too aggressive or too kind of like formal sounding. So I feel like that's the real issue here. It's not so much that vagina, it doesn't make me uncomfortable, but I do think to myself, it's not the best sounding word.
No,
I feel like there's way better words for willies.
Well, I think this is more in America. They just say the word pussy. That's it. That's all they say. Like, you don't hear that in the UK that much. That's not as common. But yeah, that is the word. But it's so I don't.
What about minge?
Oh, that again. That's the UK, but that's worse than pussy. Like,
it's not a good sound.
I guess it's not a good sound either. Yeah, but yeah. So I think she's kind of wrong in that regard, to be honest. But yeah, anyway, Maud agrees with Walter that Bunny has not been kidnapped, and of course she doesn't like her because she does porn, which is very different to her character in Boogie Nights, isn't it? Which was
she's all over the place, isn't she? Make up your mind, woman.
That was probably released like 6 months earlier, so she goes from being pro porn to being a porn star to being anti porn. Yes, she makes the feminist argument against porn. which of course is something that I think many people also make that argument, Michael.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, like, obviously, there's all sorts about it, but it kind of, she seems like she'd be a kind of, I mean, the thing is, the funny thing about her character is, like, the way she is, you can imagine her going either way. She could be one of those kind of eccentric kind of feminists who's like, oh no, porn is good because it's, like, liberating, and she could also be one of those kind of, like, radical feminists who's like, oh no, porn's bad because it's, like, degrading. And neither of those things, like, from the character would have surprised me. So there we go. That's the duality of man for you.
Well, that's the thing. She's an eccentric character. That's obviously the point. He's going through, Los Angeles, meeting eccentric characters. And yeah, obviously, the film structure was influenced by, as we said before, Raymond Chandler. And Ethan Cohen said we wanted something that would generate a certain narrative feeling, like a modern Raymond Chandler story. And that's why it had to be set in Los Angeles. We wanted to have a narrative flow, a story that moves like a Chandler book through different parts of town and different social classes. So that's specifically what they wanted with The Big Lebowski. So again, another reason why it has to be set in LA, and that's why it moves like all over these different places, meeting all these weird characters, because they were basing it off this Chandler story. So
that makes sense, and I think definitely LA is like a good place to do a kind of slice of lifestyle film, I guess, where it's kind of like it can be all over the place with what's kind of going on and like all the characters like appearing, because LA is filled with lots of eccentric people. It's a very weird place. Only Portland. No, actually, the thing is, Portland doesn't work because Portland's like it's weird, but it's just one kind of weird. LA's got like all sorts of different kinds of weird, which works really good for this film.
Yeah. So the dude is soon confronted by Lebowski, who hands him an envelope from the kidnappers containing a severed toe, supposedly Bunny's. So there is this mystery of whether Bunny has been kidnapped, whether that is her real toe or not. What happened to the dude's car, and of course the car is found in the next scene after the German nihilists threaten Lebowski with the ferret in that great scene.
As long as they don't cut off his Johnson.
We will cut off your Johnson. And then I've got that's just such a stupid random scene with the ferret. Again, I don't know how the Lebowskis conceived of this. How the Coen brothers conceived of this. But it's a great weird concept, and I think the honest trailer for The Big Lebowski pointed this out. To these lines perhaps are iconic because they are repeated quite a lot. Like the Germans say that multiple times, like we will cut off your Johnson or whatever. And
that's it.
You
can't argue. So that's a good point. Like they do kind of they lean into the meme very much so.
They do, and of course another great line, which how Walter reacts to this news that they were nihilists. And he goes, they were nihilists. Well, say what you want.
Yes.
Say what you want about the tenets of National Socialism. At least it's an ethos.
That is true.
It reminds me of course, the original Drill tweet didn't happen, but when Drill, the guy on Twitter, says, I'd like to apologise for my previous tweets. You do not, under any circumstances, have to hand it to ISIS. And I imagine if Walter tweeted that, maybe he'd have to say, hey, I guess I was not defending National Socialism. At least it's an ethos. It's the kind of the same. But you get what I'm getting at.
Yeah, you got to say at least the Nazis. You never want to use the phrase "at least" when you're talking about the Nazis.
Well, at least ISIS. At least the Nazis.
Yeah. Yes,
that's a bad road to go down, isn't it? But yeah, a great fucking line. Made even better by the fact that he's a fake Jewish guy.
As well. Yeah, I was thinking that as well. Like, he talks about being Jewish, and then he's like, oh, National Socialism, at least it's an ethos.
Yes.
At least they're doing something.
Yes. So the dude receives a phone call from the police telling him that his car has been found and taken to an impound lot. While retrieving the car, he notices the briefcase is missing and finds a piece of homework belonging to a teenager named Larry Sellers. So yeah, the mystery continues, and what the hell's going on with the money? What's Larry Sellers got to do with it? And this is when the plot gets a bit complex, and he can't tell Maud or the rich Lebowski that he lost the money either. And so the dude is abducted by Jackie Treehorn's thugs, who demand to know where Bunny is and what happened to his money. Again, the dude is being taken all over LA and going to all these weird places and he's just having White Russians while
Yeah.
while interesting people talk to him, and he just doesn't care that much. That's just
Yeah.
like so many scenes in a row are just like like he's sitting down on a couch or in a chair with a white Russian, while people who are quite interesting just say shit to him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's the formula for the movie, right? For a big part of it.
Yeah. That's like obviously you get like the police chief and all that, which is like such a random scene.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely. It's just like
Yes.
meeting a bunch of people.
Yeah, and then you get the police chief after, and then of course we see Bunny, and she has all of her toes,
Mm.
and she's driving on the freeway, back to her house. I assume that's the thing. It kills the suspense, and naturally, I think Maud points this out. The suspense is also killed by the fact that obviously the kidnappers would not reveal who they are to Lebowski.
Yeah.
So the kidnappers want to keep themselves anonymous. So after they get Bunny back, they can't be arrested. So yeah, like Maud's just pointing out that very simple thing. Like, yeah, obviously Bunny
Yeah.
is has not been kidnapped. It's a fake kidnapping. But what's great about it, of course, it's not even a fake kidnapping. She's just gone for the weekend.
Yeah.
She's just gone for a few days without telling anyone, which is a fucking great thing to land on. It's not even like, oh, is it a fake kidnapping, or is it?
Yeah. It's not even like a conspiracy.
Yeah, is it a fake kidnapping? It's a real kidnapping. No, she's just gone out of town, and that's the thing. Like, the Coen, well, we don't know that yet, of course, but the Coen brothers, by showing Bunny and showing that she's got her toes, they're just saying like, don't care about this mystery. Like, it's a subversion on what you would expect in these kind of movies. Like, which is it? And it's also a subversion on, you've just revealed everything. Like, and like, you did not need to do that. You did not. There's no need to show her driving in the car at that stage. Like, again, it's just a complete subversion on what this movie, what you would expect this movie to be. And yeah, it's just all about going along for the ride. Isn't that right, Michael?
Yeah, no, yeah, exactly. Like, it's kind of like, just like, you can't really be. I guess it's kind of like, because the film's so casual about it the whole time, you don't really feel cheated when, like, it's revealed to be kind of nothing. Because you're like, well, like, conversely, if, like, the character was super, cared about it loads, and then it was revealed it was nothing, you'd be like, okay, well, that's a bit weird. But in this case, you're kind of like, well, I guess you never cared about it that much in the first place, so it kind of makes sense that it wasn't really, building up to anything.
Yeah,
Makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense. Again, maybe when this movie was released, because people weren't, saw it for the first time, people weren't used to this. Some people maybe did feel cheated. But yeah, that's the point. Like, don't care about this. So the dude passes out after drinking a spiked white Russian, given to him by Treehorn, and has an intense dream, which he envisions an elaborate Busby Berkeley-style musical sequence featuring him and Maud. This, I don't know, it's like a psychosexual fever dream. I don't know what the fuck this is. Like, this is no place in the movie. It has no consequences. Well, maybe it shows like he's gonna have sex with Maud. Maybe it foreshadows that. I don't know. It's just a really, really weird thing to stick in the middle of this movie.
But definitely.
I guess. Does it have a point, Michael? Tell me.
I don't think so. I think it kind of reminds me of like famous scenes like the pink elephants on parade in Dumbo, where it's like just a completely random scene that just exists for the the fun of it.
Well, yeah, maybe the animators were showing off in that scene.
Yeah.
Maybe the Coen brothers are showing off in this scene. I don't know. I don't know, but anyway, yeah, it's a memorable scene, and after that, of course, returning home, the dude finds Maud, who of course has sex with him, and she's trying to become pregnant with the father, whom she will not have to interact with socially. So again, just weird characters doing weird shit, So there you go. That's another example. But she explains to him about her dad and how he has no money. And so, the light bulb goes off in the dude's head, and he and Walter confront Lebowski. They find Bunny's returned, having simply gone out of town without telling anyone. That's the end of the mystery, and it's just revealed so undramatically, and it's just such a stupid, kind of conclusion. But that's the point, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, and he explains that Bunny's nihilist friends have taken the opportunity to try and blackmail Lebowski, who in turn had tried to embezzle money from the family's charity, blaming the disappearance of the money on the blackmailers. The briefcase given to the dude never contained any money. So yeah, there is like all these people trying to do their schemes and none of it's worked. Again, Coen Brothers staple again, right, Michael?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, definitely. But so yeah, none of it was real. It was all pointless. Well, something was real because, of course, Walter insists Lebowski is faking his paralysis
Oh, yes.
and lifts him out of his wheelchair, but discovers the paralysis is real.
Yes, it's quite funny.
I-
It's quite funny.
Again, there's another scene which is very funny, which,
Yeah.
yeah, it's just... Again, you enjoy it because this guy, of course, has been tricking them and doesn't really care about his wife. He's been scheming all along.
Yeah, he's not like a good guy. So
No, he's not a good guy, so it's funny, but it's just... Yeah, of course, it's the dark comedy that they like to put in their movies again, the Coen brothers. And so, yeah, then we have a final confrontation outside the bowling alley. So the nihilists, they set fire to the dude's car and demand the ransom money. Walter fights them off, but during the altercation, Donnie dies from a from a heart attack.
Yes.
Sorry, I'm just laughing reading that. Did you enjoy that scene, Michael?
Yeah, like it's a scene. I mean, like the fight itself is funny. Obviously, it is like so random that a character dies in such a kind of just arbitrary way.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. It's an arbitrary way to die. Like the one guy in that scene who you did not expect to die,
Yeah.
and it's Donnie. And it's not even from, like, getting hit by, well, a bowling ball. The German nihilists were hit by that. Or getting punched or, like, sliced with a machete. And, like, I like how the dude's like, oh, he's been shot. And it's like, I was thinking when he said that, I was like, wait, nobody fired a gun. And, like, Walter's like, no, nobody fired a gun. It was just a heart attack. Like, it's, yeah, what you expect, the complete opposite is what happens.
Yeah.
Who you expect to die, the complete opposite happens. And it's just Donnie. This character's been picked on throughout the movie, and he just dies of a heart attack. It's just, yeah, the perfect subversion from the Coen brothers of these kind of movies. So yeah, again, did you enjoy the scene when they're getting his ashes?
Yeah, it was another good scene.
Yeah.
It's kind of similar thing again of them just talking to people.
Yeah. Do you know what it reminded me of, that scene? And maybe, I don't know, I don't think these guys have been inspired by The Big Lebowski, but like Walter and the dude in that scene, like, it reminded me a lot of something that may happen in, like, Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Oh yeah, I could see it. Oh yeah, I could see that definitely.
These characters, like, oh yeah, we care very much that our, like, friend died,
but also we don't want to spend any money.
Well, yeah, like, you're scamming us here with how much money we're going to spend, So yeah, that did remind me of Always Sunny, and they're speaking to someone behind a desk who's trying to be very professional, who's trying to do his job, trying to just, treat the situation with the respect it deserves.
Yeah.
And the people on the other side of the table just aren't having it. So yeah,
yes.
Yeah. So you did also get Always Sunny.
No, yeah. There's like a YouTube compilation I saw the other day. It was like Always Sunny in Philadelphia, kind of like the gang interacting with normal people, and I was like, like that's kind of a similar thing of like when these kind of people with wildly out of kind of whack priorities are interacting with normal people. It is quite funny.
Yeah, these normal people who are trying to be professional, who are who are often in very nice offices. And all of that. So yeah, good stuff. A great contrast that creates the comedy, and yeah, I don't know if the Always Sunny guys were influenced by this movie, but certainly you kind of get that vibe with a lot of these interactions from the dude and Walter. But that especially, that stood out for me, that scene. And so yeah, Walter scatters Donnie's ashes, but they are blown back over himself and the dude by an updraft. Is that a metaphor for this movie, Michael? Is it?
Yeah. It spits in your face.
Yeah, the characters, perhaps, they're trying to do some stuff, poignant stuff, that's what Walter's talking about fucking Vietnam as well. Like, they're inherently stupid, they're trying to do something meaningful, and it just blows back in their face. And maybe that's the case for the audience as well. You expect a crime movie or a mystery movie, and you don't really get that satisfying ending. It kind of blows back in your face. So yeah, a perfect metaphor to end the movie, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of like, it undercuts the point, an otherwise poignant moment.
Yes, and of course the two go bowling, and at the alley the dude encounters the stranger, the film's narrator, who sums up everything that happened in the movie, noting that while he didn't like seeing Donnie go, the dude remains optimistic.
Yes.
That's great, man. And that's the thing with life, man. Hey, maybe your best friend dies of a heart attack, but you just gotta keep on rolling, and you just gotta keep on bowling.
Keep on rolling, keep on bowling.
You just got to keep on knocking down those pins. That's all you got to do, again and again and again. And it's just very hard to analyze this ending, apart from just like, It's just such a stupid, weird ending that it's that, and I guess the narrator sums it up. It's like like your friend that you bowl with every week. One of your only two friends apparently dies, and oh well, you didn't like seeing him go, but that just happens. That's life.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a. What do you make of the ending? Yeah, just
I think well, I don't know if we're going to mention this, but did you hear that there was like a kind of philosophy inspired by the dude? I don't know if you were going to mention that at any point.
I was going
like,
to talk about the legacy, yeah. But go on, you talk about it.
Yeah, I was just going to say like it's a very kind of Zen approach in terms of I already mentioned how like a lot of the other kind of Coen Brothers films, and I guess films in general, are about people trying to kind of consciously work their way out of a situation, whereas obviously what you have here is a situation where it's like very much kind of, well, life just happens, and you just kind of like you just got to accept that it's happening almost without you. And I feel like having that specifically with reference to somebody's death is like a good example of that. There's an old quote, I think you'll like this quote: worrying can't take the misery away from tomorrow, it can only take the happiness away from today. I feel like it's kind of like that's the dude's attitude, like at the end of the day, his friend died, but him being sad about it wouldn't actually achieve anything. So I feel like that's kind of an aspect of it.
Yeah, I've got this up on Wikipedia. So this is Dudism, which is a religion, philosophy, or lifestyle inspired by the dude in The Big Lebowski. Its primary objective is to promote a modern form of Chinese Taoism, blended with concepts from ancient Greek philosopher Epicurus.
Wait, no, is that... Maybe that's not the guy. There is like a similar guy, but I don't think it's that guy.
Yeah.
There's like another like ancient Greek philosopher who used to like live in a bin.
Yes.
And like harass people.
Okay, well, March the 6th is the annual sacred high holy day of Dudism, the Day of the Dude. The same day the movie was released in the United States. Yeah, it is like kind of a parody of Chinese Taoism, I guess.
Yeah.
I think that's basically, yeah. It's stripped of all its metaphysical and medical doctrines. Advocates the practice of going with the flow, being cool-headed, and taking it easy in the face of life difficulties, believing this is the only way to live in harmony with our inner nature and the challenges of interacting with other people. Again, I guess people may say, oh, it's a parody. Some people may take it seriously, but yeah, that's again, it's just what this guy, what happens to him in this movie, it's the same kind of thing. It's like, yeah, he doesn't really have any say in it. Like, he gets nothing out of this whole crime caper in the end.
Yes.
And his friend dies, and well, that's, you just got to go with the flow, I guess. That's Dudism, and of course it's a cult classic as well. And there's this annual festival called the Lebowski Fest in Louisville, Kentucky. So there you go. And basically, people really like this movie, and this happened basically. It became a cult classic in like 2000, and throughout the next couple of years, people acknowledged how much of a cult classic it was. And yeah, I guess for people of a certain generation who are basically, who like marijuana, this probably is their like favorite movie. So yeah, again, we haven't really mentioned drugs a lot, but I guess that ties into the dude's vibe, I guess.
It really ties the vibe together.
Yeah, it does. It really does tie the vibe together. So let's conclude now, Michael. You go first.
Yes. So yeah, this film. It's funny. It's easy to watch. It's very chill. And I think we covered all like the main thing, which is it is super easy to watch. And like artistically, there is like some interesting stuff going on with like stylistic decisions and things like that. A lot of the performances are really good, and you feel like the characters are characters. And thematically, there is stuff there. Like I kind of said, like this idea of having somebody just be super chill. And the interaction of that, and again, I would kind of go back to my point about like Manchester by the Sea. If you see like a film about lots of emotions like love and whatever else, and you'd be like, oh, this film's like a deep exploration of that emotion, and you would count that to the film's credit. And in a similar way, I think you should count to this film's credit that it is a deep exploration of just being like completely chill and kind of disaffected by everything happening in the world around you. But I do think what kind of undercuts this is that I don't know if this film, like, I think, like, the nature of the fact the film has to be so chill is it can't really work towards any kind of insights in the way that some of kind of more thoughtful films would. So for me, I'm going to give it a low 8. That's what I think it deserves, because it's entertaining, it does something unique, but I don't think it can quite, by its very nature, reach the heights of some other kind of other films.
Yeah, I mean, again, I don't think, it's trying to do something as interesting, I guess, as Fargo. I gave Fargo a 9 out of 10, by the way. And so, yeah, I think, a fair rating for The Big Lebowski is 8.5 out of 10. I think that's fair because, again, it is a really funny movie. Of course, we've talked about, it can, if you watch it for the first time and don't know what to expect, it can maybe piss you off. But as long as you know what it is going into it, you can just have a good time and see this incredible performance from Jeff Bridges, who's, the dude, this incredible character, just getting into all these weird situations, and you don't need to really care about the mystery. Again, you just go along for this ride. And yeah, also, of course, Walter as John Goodman, an incredible performance. I enjoy him a lot.
Yeah.
And yeah, even the Germans, which we haven't talked about, they're just inherently funny. Like that scene when they're ordering like pancakes.
Oh yeah, yeah. And
it's just a stupid scene. And again, we see the German woman's toe. Again, just no need to show us that scene at all. Just removes the mystery completely. But
yeah,
that's the point. And as long as you get the point and you can you get what the Coen Brothers are doing, this can be a really enjoyable movie. So yeah, 8.5 out of 10 for me. And I just want to end by saying this from Dessen Howe, who praised the Coens. This is from Wikipedia. And said their inspired absurdist taste for weird, peculiar Americana, but a sort of neo-Americana that is entirely invented. The Coens have defined and mastered their own bizarre subgenre. No one does it like them, and it goes without saying no one does it better. Yeah, it's a weird, peculiar Americana. That's what this movie, focuses on, I guess. And again, that's inherently fun to watch. So yeah, this movie, 8.5 out of 10. And yeah, a lot. Of course, it's understandable why this movie became a cult classic and was appreciated as much of it as it should have been when it was released. So that's The Big Lebowski. Michael, just one more thing. I've been meaning to do this for a few weeks. We never had the time. So obviously, while doing our Oscar movies, we reviewed Dune.
Oh yeah.
And we were meant to predict, because Dune Part 2 is coming out later this year.
Oh yeah.
We were meant to predict what it was going to get on Rotten Tomatoes, and I just haven't found the time. So we are going to do it now, even though we've finished our Oscar extravaganza for this year at least. So yeah, you ready? You got an idea of what you think Dune Part 2 could get?
Am I allowed to look up what the original, the Dune Part 1 got for reference?
You are allowed to do that, yes.
Okay. Just because, I want to,
So the original one you've just looked up, it got 83%.
Yes.
So, right, you ready to have your prediction here?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right.
Okay. So 3, 2, 1.
86.
Okay.
I was actually thinking of 86, but I was like, no, you know what? I'm going to go big or go home. I'm going to assume, because obviously what I was thinking, and maybe this was your logic too, is that the first one was kind of disappointing because of the ending. So I'm thinking, hopefully, maybe with the second one, because it will have like an actual ending, because it's the second part, it will hopefully be better.
Because I think in general sequels aren't as highly reviewed as originals. In general, because people have already seen the first one, they won't be amazed by everything, and they'll be expecting more. So naturally, people's ratings will go down if it's similar. But I think the movie will be better because there's more potential in the second one, but not that much better. But yeah, kind of similar to you. Obviously, there isn't that much of a difference. Right now you are winning, by the way, Michael, because you have 20 points and I have 22 in our
I don't know about you.
Rotten Tomatoes movie guessing for this year. Because we took 15 points off because that's the. Because of course we took off what we got for our Oscar predictions in terms of the points we got. So we took that off our scores before. So yeah, down to 20 for you, 22 for me, and let's see. Dune could really influence things because that's coming out in like November.
It's going to change things up.
I know that could. I mean, there's not that big a difference, but it could really make an impact down the line. Let's see what happens. But anyway, Michael, what are we reviewing next week?
Well, next week we are reviewing. Yeah, next time, because we're having a little break. But next time, I'm quite excited for this, just because I don't know. It's been a while since we've done just a good, honest to God, unambiguously bad movie. We're doing Super Mario Brothers, the 1983 version, which is both the 30-year anniversary, but also I would assume we're doing it to celebrate the release of the animated version starring Chris Pratt that's coming out.
Yeah, starring Chris Pratt.
That's like the way that people identify it. It's just like, it's the Chris Pratt Mario.
Yes, so join us next time for the 1993 Super Mario Bros. Movie, or Brothers. It's just short to Bros. Because of the new Super Mario Brothers movie coming out starring Chris Pratt. So yeah, join us next time for that. We have been selecting and reflecting on The Big Lebowski because of its 25-year anniversary that happened earlier this month. Yeah, who have you been, Michael?
I've been Michael.
I've been Luke. Thanks for listening. And I don't know. I was gonna. What's a good thing that the dude would say to sign off?
I know what he'd say. He'd say, maybe you guys could drop a like on this video, but if you don't want to, that's just like your opinion, man.
Fantastic.
So, yeah, and also I was getting the viewer kind of and I assume that we'll have loads of people who watched right until the end.
Oh yeah, everyone's clicked off by now. All right.
Yeah.
Anyway, bye. See you next time for Super Mario Bros. Bye.
Bye.